Anyway, I call to order the Warrenville Public Library District regular meeting of the Board of Trustees for Wednesday, May 20th, 2020. Time is now 7:16 p.m. So I'll start by the roll call. Trustee DeRocher?
Here.
Trustee Lazan?
Here.
Trustee Richardson?
Here.
Trustee Ritzika?
Present.
Trustee Stahl?
Present.
Trustee Warren?
Online, present.
Trustee Pika is also online. In addition to some staff members, I will call out Jackie Davis, assistant to our director, and our library director, Sandy Whitmer. So moving on to item 3, approval of the agenda. We will not need a closed session, so we'll be removing items 18 and 19. And we will also need to remove item A, the approval of the minutes for the April 15th, 2020 meeting. Those will be covered on the regular agenda. We will add it, discuss it at that time. Are there any other comments from the trustees regarding changes, removal, additions to the agenda?
It's items 17 and 18, not 18 and 19.
You are correct. Thank you for correcting me. They're usually 18 and 19. There's good news. You got 2 less things tonight. Okay, if that's the case, then I need a motion to approve the agenda.
I move to approve the agenda as amended.
I second.
Motion was made by Trustee Lazan and seconded by Trustee Warren. Trustee Warren.
Aye.
Trustee Stahl.
Aye.
Trustee Ritzika.
Aye.
Trustee Richardson.
Aye.
Trustee Lazan.
Aye.
Trustee DeRocher.
Aye.
Trustee Pika also votes aye. The motion carries. Item number 4, public comments. Director Whitmer, any public joined the call as of yet?
We have public on the call, but we have no public comments that were shared through the trustee email.
Okay. So if I could have Secretary Lazan read the consent agenda, we'll move on to item 5.
Okay, A, receive and file financial report for April. B, approve payments of invoices in the amount of $43,352.06 for the period of April 16th, 2020 through May 20th, 2020, including electronic payments and checks numbering 7624 through 7661. Check number 7644 is voided. C, approve transfer of $125,000 from commercial checking account to operating checking. And okay, that's it.
What about D? Or it's not
We need
included?
to read
It says
D.
not included.
Oh, okay.
That was item E.
Okay. So there are only, just a clarification, there are only 3 items then, or does D just need an extension? It needs to be an extension.
It said to not include this month.
That's E.
Yeah.
But that's changed to D now.
It's
So
changed to D because we took A out.
Yeah.
Okay.
To recap, we're doing A, B, C, and D.
I'm still, so you do not want us to vote on extending the resolution?
Are we including that in the consent
That's what I'm
agenda?
asking Sandy.
Thank you.
I can't hear you.
Sandy, your audio's off.
I am going to bring Jackie, allow her to talk because I do not know. She's texting me and I'm not sure what, I don't know what the question is here. I'm sorry. Give me a second. Okay, let me unmute her.
Can you hear me?
Yes,
Yes.
Jackie.
Okay.
Thank you.
D should be included. It was just, that was the table of contents numbering, the page numbers, and we didn't include another copy of it, remember?
That's what I thought.
yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
you're looking at the,
I'm looking at, they're looking at the table of contents with the page number.
Okay, thank you.
It definitely
So-
needs to be voted on.
The extension does need to be voted on.
Okay,
Okay.
Yeah,
So,
thanks. Thank you, Jackie.
You're welcome.
then D, extend the resolution delegating authority to make decisions adopted as R-217 on April 15th, 2020, to the next meeting of the Board of Trustees.
okay, any questions? Otherwise, I need a motion.
I move that we approve the consent agenda as read.
I second that.
Motion was made by trustee DeRocher and seconded by trustee Ritzika. Trustee Ritzika,
Aye.
trustee Stahl,
Aye.
trustee Warren,
Aye.
trustee DeRocher,
Aye.
trustee Lazan,
Aye.
trustee Richardson,
Aye.
trustee Pika also votes aye. The motion carries. Item 6, which is the regular agenda, we have one item. Can I get a motion, please? And that is the approval of the minutes, so.
I move that we approve the minutes of the April 15th, 2020 regular Board of Trustees meeting as amended.
Thank you.
And
I second.
Second, and that's Sandy Lazan? Yes.
No, that was Barbara that seconded.
Yeah, Barb.
Okay, motion was made by trustee Stahl and seconded by trustee DeRocher. Trustee DeRocher,
Aye.
trustee Lazan,
Aye.
trustee Richardson,
Aye.
trustee Ritzika,
Aye.
trustee Stahl,
Aye.
trustee Warren.
I'd like to make a couple of corrections to it. Minor. This is the April 15th.
Okay, and you're looking at the revised version, correct?
I think so. It's the one that was included.
Well, there was a revision sent yesterday.
Yeah.
No, maybe not. But these might still hold. I'm looking at the packet, and I'm looking right now at page 6 of 8. In item C, I guess that's 8C,
Uh-huh.
last paragraph. I think that the discussion was intended to read April 29th, not March 29th.
You are correct.
And then my second correction is on page 7 of 8, under item 10, the second paragraph, where it says Spanish community. And I may have actually said Spanish community, but I was intending Latino community. And I'd like that changed to that wording if that was possible.
Sandy, are you okay with that?
I didn't hear him.
So on page 7, the paragraph about the ice cream social,
Right.
he is asking if we can change the term, instead of using Spanish community, if we can substitute the term Latino community.
Okay.
Or if you wouldn't, or if you want to stay with Spanish and Spanish dash speaking.
What's the preference? Jackie will need direction for that.
From
But
home.
you know, it's the correct one.
Well, yep. Rick, whatever your intention was, should be how it should be stated.
I think Latino would be better because
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so I lost the ball. Did
Yeah.
everybody get to vote or?
with those
Uh.
corrections, I vote aye. I was the last one, I believe.
Yeah.
Okay,
Do we
And-
need to amend the motion,
yeah, that's my question. So,
amend the motion?
Well, so I said as amended, but so it's amended twice then?
As re-amended?
Yeah.
So I move that we approve the minutes for the April 15th, 2020 regular Board of Trustees meeting as amended twice as of tonight.
Including all,
That works.
Okay, and Barbara, are you okay to second?
Yeah, I second.
Okay, so a new motion was made by trustee Stull and seconded by trustee DeRocher. We will vote again. Trustee DeRocher,
Aye.
trustee Lazan,
Aye.
trustee Richardson,
Aye.
trustee Rizika,
Aye.
trustee Stull,
Aye.
trustee Warren,
aye.
trustee Pika also votes aye. Motion carries. Jackie, Sandy Lazan, any questions or are we all clear on that?
All clear.
Okay. Item 7, any unfinished business? Okay, then moving on, item 8, and that is on page 22 of your packet. And this is the intergovernmental agreement.
I move that we adopt ordinance number 19-20-06, ordinance providing for the execution of an intergovernmental agreement authorizing membership in SWAN.
I second.
That was, that was trustee Stull?
Other.
Okay, motion was made by trustee DeRocher and seconded by trustee Stull. Trustee Stull.
Well, we should probably have some discussion.
Oh, that's true. Any discussion?
Sandy? anything to say?
I just want to introduce this and let you know what exactly it is. So basically, by adopting this ordinance, you are authorizing Jerry as board president and Sandy as the secretary to execute the intergovernmental agreement for our membership in SWAN. I think I noted here that our attorney has looked at this. This is pretty much a standard agreement for this membership. But we will not execute the intergovernmental agreement until sometime in June after the SWAN membership votes to accept us into the group. So this is just kind of a step in advance of that intergovernmental agreement that will allow the process to continue without waiting for further board action in June. So anybody have any questions about the agreement?
How many members are on the SWAN board? I don't think they counted who and the distribution of them.
That's a good question. I do not know how many members are on the board of SWAN. I do know that there are 100 there will be 100 libraries. There are 97 libraries currently, and Warrenville, Glenside, and Roselle are joining, and so they're calling our group the SWAN 100 because the three of us will bring them to 100 members. But I can look into the number of board members.
It's Roselle and who else, Sandy, please?
Roselle and Glenside, which is
Glenside.
Glendale Heights.
Thank you.
Yep.
Other commentary, questions?
Hope you've enjoyed your Wednesday.
Alexa's chiming in. I don't know why. All right. Then at this time, we will take a vote. Trustee DeRocher.
Aye.
Trustee Lazan.
Aye.
Trustee Richardson.
Aye.
Trustee Rizika.
Aye.
Trustee Stull.
Aye.
Trustee Warren.
Aye.
Trustee Pika also votes aye. The motion carries. Moving on to item B under new business, identify essential library services. And you can find information about this on page 38. And I think prior to a motion, we might want to have some discussion, concerns, questions, information from Sandy about these 2 pages.
So I'll try to stay brief here. None of the governor's executive orders to this point specifically identify libraries as either an essential business or a non-essential business. However, one of his orders allows local government entities, such as library districts, to have their governing boards identify specific essential services. And by doing that, that would allow us to have staff in our buildings to provide some very basic services. So we are asking tonight that the board identify 3 essential services for us. One is to allow the return of library materials. 2 would be to allow access to library materials. And 3 is to allow access to our public computers, copier, and scanning and faxing stations. So all 3 of those pieces would require our staff to return to the building in some capacity to provide those services. And to Cindy's question in the committee of the whole meeting, I think it was Cindy, somebody
Yeah.
asked, you know, what are we planning to do? So Jamie and Paul are heading up a team of staff who are working to document procedures and timelines, as well as what hours we would be able to offer these types of services, particularly the return of library materials and doing some curbside service work. We're not quite ready to broach having people in our building to use the computers. That would kind of be the next step. So we're getting curbside service kind of under our belts with hopes to start that up. Probably we're looking at maybe the 2nd week of June. We just have to make sure that we have everything in place and we're actually ready to do this work in a manner that's safe, not only for our staff, but also for our residents. So that's where we're at. Now, the work that we've been doing as far as online programs and answering emails and that sort of thing, that really is essential library service as well. But those things don't require our staff to be in the building. So I'm confident we can continue those operations. But I feel that I'd be more comfortable if the board actually took action tonight and identified these 3 specific things as essential services so that we can move forward with planning and hopefully getting them up and running sometime, especially the first 2 in June. I think that the computer access might have to wait until July until we get into a different phase of this Restore Illinois plan. Although I do have to say that personally, I think that the computer access and the access to the fax machine is actually pretty important for some of our residents who are having to file for unemployment.
Is there a way, excuse me, is there a way that you can move like the computers or make it so people aren't wandering through the whole library? It's like strictly going straight to where the computers are so they're not like touching all the books in the library and everything else.
Right. There probably are ways for us to create pathways for people. I mean, we are definitely watching other libraries and it's very interesting. We are learning a lot. Some libraries have created pathways, so they basically put arrows on the floor. This is where you can go. And then they block off certain areas of the library. I think it's doable. It's just, I think that we need to make sure we've got the curbside stuff down, and then we can start bringing people in the building. Most libraries are actually having people make appointments to come into the building and use those resources. So we have a way of limiting how many people are in the building at a time, where they're sitting. To start, you know, because of social distancing, we may only be able to have 3 people at our computers. You know, 1 person in the youth area, 1 person in the computer lab, and 1 person in the adult area. I think it's better in most of these cases to start smaller and then expand it as we work, you know, after we get the initial kind of kinks worked out of the process. But
I have
Barbara.
Okay.
Barbara.
So I saw the really excellent response that you gave to the patron who asked the question about curbside, and then today's kind of revision of that went out to the whole public. So I'm wondering, you know, in terms of the concerns that you raised there, where are we in terms of mitigation of those things? I mean, what really what really do you think has changed or will change in the next couple weeks?
Several things. Number one, we are assembling the PPE that's necessary and the cleaning materials to keep us safe. So those things are going to be in place, which is great.
Okay.
I think that we've worked out like a timeline for when we'll offer this service, as well as breaking our staff that will be in the building into 2 teams. So there's just a process that we have to work through. And then the other thing is some equipment that we'll need to use. So as you may know, we right now have 9,000 items checked out to our community. And I'm not quite sure what 9,000 items looks like when it comes back to us, but I know it's a lot and it's going to take up a lot of space. And on top of that, we now really, I'm suggesting we quarantine those returned items for 7 days. So it's not as if we can go in, empty a book return, check all the items in, put them back on the shelf. So we've talked about having bins at the curbside that people can just get out of their cart. We're trying to do contactless, so we won't be, face to face with people. They'll get out of their car, put their returns into a bin, and then when the bin is full, we'll go out, we'll cover the bin, date it, roll it into the building. Librarians are resourceful, and Facebook is a terrific place, believe it or not, to connect with people in libraries. And one library I saw had reached out to one of their community stores to ask if they could borrow grocery carts.
Oh, excellent.
Up to this point, I had been planning to purchase some big carts to hold all these materials. So I mentioned it to Jamie. Jamie reached out to the Target in Warrenville, and they are willing to loan us 15 shopping carts for 3 months. So it's great marketing for them.
Yeah.
But it's also very nice to have businesses that are supporting us and reestablishing some of these services. So there's just so, as those of you, there are so many pieces, and we just have to get it to the point where we're comfortable with it, but we're also open to changing as we work through it. We know there'll be problems, but it's just creating that kind of flexible mindset. Sandy.
I also wanted to say at Target, hard items, probably like the DVDs or something like that, those can be wiped down with sanitizer and not quarantined.
Right.
And that's what they're doing with hard items like that. They're cleaning them and putting them out on the shelves. Clothing is being quarantined. I also had heard about you buying sanitizer from Two Brothers.
Yes.
I heard that. I wanted to say, I did see sanitizer over at Restaurant Depot, gallons of it.
Okay.
So if you're looking for more of that, there's plenty of it there. I also want to say, whatever plan we come up with, this is going to be around for the next year.
Yeah.
Right.
We have to
Not going away.
Exactly.
So, we can't be shut down for a year.
No.
So
exactly.
if we do move forward with this motion and we do consider these essential library services, you said that Paul and Jamie are going to then start working on a plan. I know you probably have already done a little bit of pre-planning and thinking around this. What are you thinking about in terms of how long would their planning be? When do you think we'll be rolling something out? What are your thoughts around that?
So they have a pretty complete plan in place that they presented to the management team this week.
Of course they did.
We gave them some feedback. So I think we'll be ready to roll. They've ordered today, I think Paul, we okayed him ordering some paper bags. So when we pull holds for people, we'll put them into paper bags that they can then pick up from a table. So there's still lots of little details, but I think that we have the framework is all set to go. So it's just a means of, getting just a few more little things in place, and then making sure we have the staff available to work the hours that we've set, establishing those teams and bringing them into the building. Heather.
Which brings me to my question. How comfortable are the staff with these preparations that we're making? Because I know that with me working at the courthouse, there's actually people that at this point do not ever want to set foot in the courthouse because of this, because of the potential. So I didn't know whether or not there's been any issues, I guess, with staff, how comfortable they will be with these things in place, which I think you and the management team are doing an excellent job to do this, but it still depends on the individual's comfort level as to whether or not they want to come back to work and want to come to the building. And I guess that was my question.
Right. So before, and that's a piece we haven't talked about yet too much, but before we roll this out, we will probably survey our staff to figure out who is ready to come back, who is not ready to come back, what their concerns are, try to assuage some of those concerns. I know we probably have staff who are in the high risk categories, so we will have to look at options for them in terms of, you know, we have to look at the job description and what the job entails. Some of our positions allow for people to do some of their work from home remotely, but some of our positions do not allow that. The majority of the work that for some of our positions has to happen in our building. So for those individuals, it's likely they will have to make a choice. You know, the work is there for them to do, and they will just need to choose whether they're going to come back to work or they're not going to come back to work. And there are options, you know, people can, if they need to take more time. We still have to work through all this, so I'm not quite sure exactly what it's going to look like. But some people have paid time off that they can take to extend the time, to give them a little more time to think about things. Other people probably qualify for some of the paid leave that's available under the federal laws that were passed as part of the Families First Coronavirus Response Act. It's the longest thing ever. And then we do have, you know, we can work through, if somebody has a particular condition, we can work through accommodations for, you know, through the Americans with Disabilities Act. So there are some options that we'll have to work through, but those will be definitely on a case-by-case basis.
Okay.
But one of my goals, I think my staff knows this, we'd be open by now if I didn't care about.
Oh yeah, no, I understand that. And it's something that, yeah, that I just heard about today, that there's some people that feel reluctant to come into the courthouse. I, for one, am anxious. I've been loving to get back to work. So this is going to be my first full 5-day work week in over 2 months. So it's a bit of a change.
Right. So that's definitely something we do have to work through.
One question on the absolute risk. How many cases have been reported out of Warrenville? Does Dave Brummel know anything about that, or is he shared any of it?
There's pretty good data available. I you know, there's a link almost every day on NPR to be able to see what things are via each city.
DuPage County, if you go to DuPage, make sure, DuPageCO.org, they have, and I'm going to go there now on my phone, they have a COVID-19 response page. Mm-hmm. And every day they update the numbers for DuPage County. They have an overall count for the state as well as for the county. And then there's a map of the communities in DuPage County. So we can see, if I can get there on my phone. It's not loading for me right now. It's causing trouble. But you can see how many cases were confirmed in Warrenville. I don't know if you can see how many deaths that there were in Warrenville. Hold on, maybe the map is loading now. Oh, move over here. There were 97 confirmed cases in Warrenville thus far. That's from mid-March through now.
Right. Thank you.
Yep, you're welcome.
I was going to say the other problem with that is your false positives and your false negatives. So you really don't know how many, or like in my case, the lab lost the sample. But, you know, there's all kinds of fun stuff going on.
Right. And we wonder too how many people have already had it but had such mild cases that
That they don't even know.
we'll never know.
Right. Or how many people have don't have any symptoms.
Right.
Right, it's been sort of,
Okay, I think I'm ready to put forward a motion then.
All right, let me check that there are no more commentary, questions, concerns. Otherwise, I'll defer to trustee DeRocher.
Just waiting. Everybody good? Okay. I move that we identify the following as essential library services: return of library materials, access to library materials, and access to computer, copier, scanner, and fax service.
I
Second,
second that motion.
All right. I think it was trustee Stahl, but at this point, I hear that trustee DeRocher made the motion and it was seconded by trustee Stahl.
Second.
I think Cindy and I both seconded, so you can take either
Okay.
one. I don't care.
Okay, Jackie, it's up to you. All right, we will vote. Trustee Bredzika,
Aye.
trustee Warren,
aye.
trustee Stahl,
Aye.
trustee Richardson,
Aye.
trustee Lazan,
Aye.
trustee DeRocher,
Aye.
trustee Pika also votes aye. The motion carries. Okay, item C under this section can be found on page 55. So I'd just like to say thank you, Sandy, for providing us all the backup information and the Governor's Restore Illinois program. That was very interesting information to review.
So very helpful.
All right, so we are on page 55, and again, I think if there's questions on the material on page 55 or strong opinions that need to be voiced before we go for a motion, this is options for employee compensation beyond June 14th, 2020. So I will open that up. Any questions for Director Whitmer? Any strong opinions that need to be voiced? Please proceed.
Are there any accesses to 401k benefits in this instance? I know you can take some out for education and other activities, but I didn't know if it was accessible for this particular instance of the pandemic.
That's a question that I don't know the answer to.
Okay.
We don't need that information for this particular discussion, do we?
I believe it would be an individual decision if they chose to do that, but I'm not sure what IMRF would allow them to do because it's a pension plan. It's not a 401k.
Right.
But we have a 457 plan that's a deferred compensation plan. It's
Okay.
not IMRF, but I think that would be up to the individual employee to research.
I mean, they've got the family leave, they've got the vacation time, paid time off, and other things. I didn't know if that would be something that they could tap into to just go on temporary leave.
I'll make a note of that because that's something we could definitely investigate.
How is this affected by the discussion we've already had on pay?
We've got people that are at risk in the workforce, so anything that they could use to extend out the time that they would be separate from the general population would be a benefit to them and due to their service to us as well.
So those are the people we're talking about, because when it talks about furloughs and reduction of work hours, is that who we're talking about then?
Not necessarily.
Oh, well,
So how is that?
So there are
Do we
ways.
still have to do that with the decision we've already made?
This is
Well, the
not related
decision
to wage. This is related to compensation. And the
I know, but if
uncharted
we
issues.
already, but if we already budgeted very carefully, why
Well,
I'm not sure how they go together.
I
This
think
is-
I'll defer to Sandy.
I will say that this is more about the work that is available for people than it is about the dollars, than the budget.
Okay.
It's simply at this point, we do not have the work for the employees, so it's a matter of whether or not continuing to pay employees who aren't doing work for the library, whether that's appropriate or not.
Well, can I just interject in, I mean, based on our previous conversation about doing this rollout of trying to have curbside,
Right,
it seems to me that people could be redirected. There's going to be an awful lot of work to do up front when people start returning. Well, it'll need to be done within 7 days, after the 7-day waiting period. There'll be a
Right.
lot of work to do at that point. So I'm just wondering what your thoughts are about redirecting people to some other work for a while until the bulk of that work gets done.
There's a lot after that too. You're going to have to, like she said, move the computers and stuff like that. There's going to be internal work.
right. So the initial proposal that we saw from the work group that was working on curbside suggests we would be open 3 days for curbside pickup for 4 hours each day, and then 3 days to manage pulling holds and calling patrons to schedule their pickups. So that's 6 days, 4 hours a day. I don't think I have the details on how many staff they plan to have working on those procedures. I don't have the details yet on how many hours we're looking at for those jobs, but certainly it's going to be specific to some positions. It may not include everybody doing that work.
But certainly we could have people working longer hours than we are open because there's going to be enough work to do.
So we're also trying to manage lunch breaks and things like that. Certainly we could look at extending more hours. Sorry, that's okay. I don't know what that looks like at this point, but I can tell you that it's not going to require all of the staff.
It's kind of in flex.
It is.
See how things
is.
go to what you're going to need.
Right.
Well, okay, so there's a couple of different things going on here. I mean, first I'd like to hear what your recommendations are, Sandy. But we're also going to be heading, I don't want to be the doomsdayer here, but
Right.
we are heading into a big recession. So
Right.
it probably would be good for us to be conservative if we can be, on one hand. On the other hand, once we get going, we need to have our employees back up to speed. I mean, we need to have them in place. And if we furlough them, we're just going to give ourselves kind of a headache. So
Right.
I'd just like to know what your thoughts are.
I'm struggling. I'm honestly struggling with with a little bit of a fairness issue here, and that we have employees. There are two things here. There are employees who cannot do their normal work remotely. So they are watching hour upon hour upon hour of webinars. Either that, or they're working 2 hours a week when they're scheduled to work 10 hours a week, or 10 hours a week when they're scheduled to work 15 hours or 20 hours a week. So I am struggling personally with the fairness aspect of this, and maybe I shouldn't be struggling with that. It's a challenge. It's very much a challenge for me that we have some people who could be working more than full time, and others who are working so few hours that it's just challenging for me.
Can some of those people switch the type of work they do? I know you were working on cross-training people.
Right. It's going to be, it's dependent upon when we can reopen the building. So until we can actually reopen the building, and even when we reopen the building, how many people are we? I don't see that we're going to need a lot of people to manage things for probably 2 to 3 months. So this discussion is about me getting information from you to see where what your opinions are.
It might be
I mean,
possible for you to make a best case, most probable case, and worst possible case set of scenarios for how many people you'd need to let go, how many you could shift around to alternate hours. I mean, when the building's normally, because you could, I suppose, close the hours of availability to the public and then move some people in that would be otherwise affected into employees I'm talking about that would be affected into off times. So it might be more early morning, late evening, afternoons. I don't know what you'd determine would be the best time to use people for, in effect, enhanced page type activities where you're taking in materials, sanitizing them, and then either putting them in racks to store for a period of time while they dry out or incubate, and then back on the shelf. I can see that this is going to be a hands-on type thing, and it's going to need a lot of people as these 9,000 pieces of material come back and more go out and get returned on a more frequent basis than we've had lately.
But I just wanted to ask, are we still under limitations of how many people can be in the library at one time?
I think we will have to practice social distancing with staff. So we can't have everyone in the building at the same time. We're also concerned about staggering shifts. If shift A comes in for a morning shift and shift B comes in for an afternoon shift, is there extra cleaning? Do we need to have a cleaning service come in between those times? I mean, we are talking about trying to keep one team of people in the building each day. We're talking about assigning restrooms and assigning restroom stalls to individuals so that we don't have to clean in between each use of restrooms. We're talking about shutting down the staff lounge because there's no space for social distancing in the staff lounge. People using the microwave, people opening, closing the refrigerator. Are we going to spend time cleaning up after ourselves after each time? You know, I can't get people to wipe the kitchen table down after they eat their lunch on a normal day. So I'm not
optimistic.
I'm not optimistic. I mean, the dishes they put away that they've washed still have food on them. So we're actually planning to lock down all of our kitchen cabinets. So there are some challenges to overcome here. And yes, there's an advantage to having the staff ready to pick up and be on board when we're ready to roll again.
What maybe you said this and I just missed it. You're talking about a team one day and a different team the other day.
Yes.
How large are these teams?
It depends on what kind of work is being done. So right now the teams, I don't know. And I don't know that Jamie and Paul have assigned, specific tasks. I'm thinking it will probably be a team of maybe 5 or 6 people.
Okay.
There may be people.
So you haven't had a chance to talk to other libraries that are already doing curbside to see what kind of staffing needs they have? Have you had a chance to do that?
Well, Naperville, for instance, has 160 employees or whatever they have.
That's not a good.
We don't know.
Comparison.
So we don't have, I don't think we have a good comparison. There are some libraries that are just bringing everybody back.
Well, that's my question, is not everybody is going to be ready to come back.
That is correct.
But to Heather's point, do we know, we polled the staff, how many people are going to even be willing to help with this curbside? I heard you say that's something that has to be done in preparation for curbside pickup.
That is correct. So at this point, what I'm looking for here, and what I've kind of put into the motion, and I don't know where you sit. If you sit on the side of we just continue to pay everybody regardless of the work that they're doing, that's fine. That's a motion. done
Okay.
deal. You know, I don't know if you want to put an end date on it or if you just want to continue that forever. That's your choice. Or if you're interested in the option of furloughing people, that is something that we will need time to create a plan. We can't look at, you know, Susie Smith and Johnny Jones. We can't look at person. We have to look at the job. So we have to look at the job that needs to be done. And then we have to identify the people who have the skills to do that job, who are willing to come into the building and do that work with the safety precautions that we have in place. So that is the process. If you're open to considering a furlough, that's the process that the management team and I will need time to draw up a plan for that. And it would probably be a phased plan. It would be, you know, the first phase we're offering curbside. The second phase we're doing curbside and we're letting people in the building to use the computers. You know, the third phase is maybe another step. We're allowing people to come in and do grab and go. They can go to the shelves, get the materials, leave the building. So that's the kind of planning that we have to do. So like I said, if you're interested in just continuing to pay people, that's fine. If you want us to draw up a plan for what a furlough would look like, then my suggestion is that you extend the current pay practice, which we're paying people. There's two options. You can pay people regardless of the work they're doing through, I think it's June 28th. And then the staff, the management team and I will come back with a plan to the next board meeting with some options for furloughing some employees. The other option is that you can, and I think this is what's reflected in the motion, is that you can pay people their regular rate of pay for the actual hours that they've worked on legitimate work that has value for our community. That's the option that I am seeing some libraries take at this point.
Okay, Sandy, if we went for that option, what's the likelihood, do you think, that, okay, so say there's a position where their legitimate number of hours is only 4 per week, and that person really needs to be paid for more than that, so they would, what's the likelihood that that person would then, you know, resign and go elsewhere?
That's the risk that we would be taking. That's definitely a risk that we would be taking. Any reduction in hours, the employee would be eligible to apply for unemployment. And you know, there are lots of options. I don't know if anybody watched that webinar that I sent out with the trustee that was for library trustees. There was lots of great information in there about options that need to be considered. We could ask people to volunteer to be furloughed. There may be people who aren't ready to come into the building.
Yeah.
And they would be willing to step back, possibly apply for and qualify for unemployment for the time that they're off work, and at least get a little bit of income, rather than making the choice to just totally step away if we call them into work. Because the other piece of this is, if we continue to pay people and we're ready to have them come back to work, they will be expected to come back to work.
Right.
That's the piece, that if we continue to pay and you say we need staff in here on June 1st or June 3rd or whatever, those people have to be willing to come back at that date to do some of the things other people are talking about, whatever it is that they can logically do or are qualified to do.
Right.
There's another consideration perhaps too. I volunteer at the Northern Illinois Food Bank, which is the sort of a service type activity. And they have a team in place that does various activities, and some are more public facing than others. Now, what I had suggested to one of the people there was that they develop a kind of a blue gold team type structure, so that they could, so they could split duties evenly and then have different shifts that they could cover. Because if they got into contact with someone who tested positive, then you've wiped out everybody that's on the floor at that time for 2 weeks. And they chose not to go that way. And they had somebody that came in that did prove positive, and they had to get rid of the whole crew, and they're off on their quarantine. Now they're working from home, but they're not on the floor. And they've got other people that are more or less unqualified to do this, doing some things that it takes some skilled labor to do. So that might be something that you could look at too, so that if somebody comes in and in effect wipes off happier staff, that you can still go with the other half. So I'd be more or less figuring that if you've got the money and your burn rate on the available funds can absorb it, that you develop something like that so that you've got in effect, I don't know, you and Jackie are kind of on the same page, but maybe you could split yourselves up among that and the other one be available. And then you could have a lead manager for blue team and a lead manager for blue team. And then you could just switch this, half and half, mornings and afternoons. And then the off team would go home and do whatever homework they could do, and they'd still work their full time. And then, but everybody'd be back on board at least half the time, so that they could have the hands-on feel, so that it's not like you walk in and say, geez, everything's changed. Just a suggestion.
Yeah, just so you know, the team concept is something that we've been discussing since pretty early in this pandemic, and that's been our concern all along, is that we have to identify specific teams to work together so that we don't lose the functionality of things, and we can continue our operations if we have to quarantine a team. Sandy.
I have a question on that, because like Target is not doing that. Okay.
Right.
Daughter store, they've had 3 confirmed cases. Everybody still works. They are not quarantining anybody. You have your choice, and they won't even tell you who has been tested positive. Everybody just keeps working their shifts and keep working. So they're not working in teams, and one person gets sick, everybody's quarantined out. They're not doing that. And a lot of other places are not doing that.
Are you recommending that?
I don't see why not. I mean, if you've got your mask on and you're washing your hands and you're sanitizing everything, it's not a guarantee that you're going to get it from this person. I mean, like I said, in her store, they've got a couple hundred employees and only 3 have tested positive.
Okay, so her store, I'm just going to interject here, and I'm sorry if this sounds bad, but her store has a couple hundred employees. We have less than 30.
I know, but what I'm just saying is that, you know, you're talking about the teams. I don't know if that's quite necessary to do, you know?
Well, I guess what I'm thinking is that we should try to do some kind of a hybrid here. I like the idea of giving people voluntary furlough option. If there's someone
I think that's essential.
Someone who's really doesn't want to come back yet and is, I mean, you can actually do pretty well on unemployment right now.
Yeah.
So to at least give that as an option, a voluntary furlough option. But I have to go with the fairness thing. I know what it's like to be one of the people who's doing a lot of work and a lot of other people not so much. And
exactly.
Why should they get paid for not doing anything while you work your butt off?
For a short period of time, that's fine. But for a long period of time, and this could go on for quite some time, it's really difficult. People should be paid for the work they're doing. And So maybe we can give people who aren't ready to come back a voluntary furlough option until we're ready to be fully staffed again, whenever that might be. It could be quite some time. And then the other people just need to be paid for the work they're doing. And perhaps with this Teams concept, we could get people in doing more hours per week than they're doing now, because there will be work that I really feel like once we get the curbside thing rolling, there is going to be some work to do. And, you could redirect people to that kind of work. I don't know. That's all I don't know if that was helpful or not.
Well,
No. Go ahead, Heather.
Well, what I was going to say, because the way I was at work, they split us into two teams. So I was working a portion of the time, and then when I wasn't working, the other team was working. But it also gave me, because I couldn't do my regular job, I also got some experience in doing other things. So I feel like, that might be something that's, people might be interested in, because you don't always get the chance to either cross-train or do another job. And this may be an opportunity, and you can see what strengths your staff has. I agree that there may be people that aren't ready to come back to work or at-risk employees, and the voluntary furlough seems like a definite option. And possibly, if you don't get the response that, Sandy, that you feel that you need to, whether to say, I don't, not necessarily staff appropriately, but if you have too many people, and that you may have to look at some stricter measures because of this, I don't see how we can keep employing paying everybody, especially if they are not doing essential work. And then, because we have to be fiscally responsible too in that sense. So, I guess I'm sort of seeing where we may need to do something like that. Like I said, possibly this will provide some opportunity if people can say, I'm willing to step up, I'm willing to do something different than my work, I think might be an advantage. But
I was just going to say, I think Barbara and now Heather made some great points. I think we need to know who is really wanting to do.
Oh, sure, you just
People need to come back to work to even begin to offer curbside pickup and do it well and do it right and do it safely.
Other people will be needed on a more or less regular basis to sanitize work surfaces and touched areas. And that's going to be a full-time job for somebody. Just because unless you're going to say, okay, there's going to be no lunchroom, you will eat in your car or outside on public benches, and there will be no toilet facilities except for staff back in the staff area, and everyone else is going to look elsewhere, either porta potties outside on the bike path or at a gas station. Sanitize your own as you see fit, or keep your visits short. But there's going to have to be some non-regular type activities that are being done in the library all the time, as long as the store's open.
Have we been helpful at all, Sandy?
A little bit. So I'm thinking, I would love to avoid furloughs. There's nothing more. I would love to know that on July 1st, everybody will have enough work to do, but I'm not confident that that's the case. So if you're willing, I think the voluntary furlough option is something that we could definitely pursue.
This is Trustee Rizika.
Yes, Cindy.
I think that we should try and aim for a soft opening on June 1st and go with some of your decisions, Sandy, with some of the essential work to be done. June 1st should be our opening day.
That's not even, we can't do that according to the Illinois guidelines.
It's
Yeah,
not even possible to look at June 1st.
right. There's too much work to be done.
I thought we were talking like middle of June at some point.
Yeah,
Yeah.
June 15th.
We are talking middle of June, possibly June 8th for returns to start. We would do returns for 1 week. And then the following week, we would start to offer curbside service. As a soft launch, we'd probably start with the holds that we already have in place. And then we probably wouldn't even publicize it too much to people. It would definitely be a soft launch that first week so we can work through the problems that are likely to arise. And then the following week, it would be a bigger publicity push. So I just don't see us being ready for June 1st.
Okay,
As much as I'd love to do it, Cindy,
yes.
it's not realistic.
So I had when we check out materials curbside, how do they intend to do that? I mean, obviously we had the self-checkout stations and we had somebody come up to the desk before, but are we doing is it some sort of portable card reader to do it, or just like phones, or I didn't know how that was.
I think the plan is, and I apologize, Jamie and Paul, I'm probably speaking out of turn. But I feel like more people involved in this conversation isn't going to help matters. Maybe it would. I'll turn on Jamie and Paul's mics. I'm going to invite them in.
I'd like to, I guess I want to hear more about the plan, what's so far.
Okay.
Okay.
So Jamie and Paul, surprise, surprise, you are unmuted. So does one of you want to talk to what the checkout procedure would be like? Or do you want me to to kind of fill people in? We have lost Jerry Pica. Wait.
Yeah, we have.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. We'll just continue on.
Let's see. I think I'm vice president. I can take over.
Yes, you can. So which one of you, Jamie, because your kind of member services and deal with circulation every day, do you kind of want to walk them through what that would look like?
Yeah, I'm definitely happy to do that. I'm just grabbing my notes. So basically how it would work for curbside is people would either request their items online or call in to, our main number to request items or get reader recommendations. We would get our poll list. We would poll the items for each member and we would check them out to their account. Okay. So that confirmation that they have requested that item, we have their account information, we would automatically just check it out to their account. There would be no showing of ID, no showing of library card. It would, they would just give us their name and we would look up their account if they call us over the phone. We thought that was the simplest method of doing it. And then once, we've checked them out to their accounts, then the idea would be to bag the items and then call the person to schedule a time for pickup.
Okay.
And I think kind of
straightforward.
Yeah. So that's what we've been working on. So I know there's still a lot more things specifically to work out, definitely the details, but that's definitely kind of the checkout procedure.
Okay, so I feel like we still need to give Sandy, I feel like you still want some more specific guidance from us, Sandy.
Well, we'll need to have a motion. Sandy, I heard Barbara say that we wanted to pay, or she indicated paying people by the hour. That is something that hour worked, right? I can't hear you. You're on mute.
Yeah. I did this all day at a meeting. I didn't hear your question completely.
Barbara indicated paying people by the hour for what they work. That is inherent in your possible motion, or is that a variation to what you have been recommending?
It's paying them for the work that they've done. whatever their regular hourly rate is.
Okay.
I'm not sure how it would affect our salaried employees or managers.
Okay.
But if they didn't have enough work, there would be a pay reduction to their salary rate. So I think at this point, if you're okay with, I think what we need to decide, we can come up with a plan for furlough. That's not a problem. You don't have to take action on yes or no, you're going to furlough. The sample motion that I have here just directs the staff to develop a plan that we
Right.
can bring back to you in June.
Right.
But in the meantime, I think it would be wise for the board to direct us for how to pay employees for the period from like June 15th to June 28th. So there's a payroll period in there that's not covered, that we would need to know what to do with that payroll. It would be best, I would say, if we knew what we were doing with that payroll before we made a decision about furloughs. So at least people would know that through June 28th, this is the plan for payment. The motion that I've put in here is just that we would pay them their regular scheduled hours for the work that they're doing, and then require them to use paid leave for any hours when the work is available, but they're not available to work. So it's basically, we're paying them for the work that's available for them. And if for some reason they need to take time off because they're sick and they can't work that day, or I don't know, we've had people take paid time off because they've had appliances that need repair or appliances that were delivered.
Well, but is this requiring them to take paid time off if we don't have enough hours to give them?
No, that's not what this motion is.
Okay.
But that could be, that's an option.
No, I wouldn't say that they should be required to take paid time off if we can't come up with work for them.
Right. So this is basically continuing what we're doing right now. It's just continuing for another 2-week period.
So this would be basically paying everybody for their scheduled hours, not for hours that they're actually working.
Right. And then they would be required just to take that paid time off if we have work for them to do and they're not able to do it because of something else that's happening, then we would ask them to take paid time off. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
I think so.
But it doesn't cover those employees where we don't have enough for them to do. They're just getting for now.
No, that's what the plan is for, that they're going to work on.
Right, that'll be back at the June 17th meeting. This is just for the pay period through the end of June 28th.
Correct.
For the fiscal year.
Yeah.
Right.
Is unpaid time off available?
For some employees, yes, it depends on or unpaid time off. In
Unpaid
certain circumstances, yes. But in order to use the unpaid leave of absence,
Yes.
you have to exhaust any paid time off that you have available.
Ah.
And that's something definitely that we could include in the option that we would bring back to the board in June.
I think that'd be a fair, if you will, placeholder type of activity. If somebody wants to take unpaid time off but doesn't want to go on permanent.
Okay, so I guess what I'm just trying to get at here, Sandy, is for this 2-week period, are you still feeling like this fairness thing needs to be addressed?
I think that's a great question. And I think that for that 2-week period, I think we can probably all live with it for another 2 weeks.
But past that, and we'll be talking about that at the June meeting.
Right.
Well,
Right.
Right.
okay,
So are we ready to make the motion?
we are. Somebody make the motion.
I'll make the motion.
Okay.
But Jerry okay.
Okay,
If I can still read it, it's dark out here.
Are you on your porch, Jill?
Yes, I am.
Oh,
It's my daughter's makeshift office, actually.
oh, very nice.
I move.
I was moving.
Wait. Jill's in the middle of it.
Okay, Squints, go ahead.
I move that we pay employees their regular rate at a pay, I really can't read, rate of pay for regularly scheduled hours and require use of paid leave for hours when work is available, but the employee is not available to complete the work for the pay period beginning June 15th and ending June 28th, and direct staff to draft a plan for furloughs and reductions in work hours for board review and approval at the June 17, 2020 board meeting.
I
Can I
second
get a
that
second?
motion.
Okay, motion was made by trustee Richardson and seconded by trustee Rizika. Is there any further discussion before we vote?
It should be redacted so that it's in some sort of proper English, though. That's one sentence.
You are welcome to come up with an alternative motion.
Just put a semicolon. Okay,
Jackie asked me to put it in there because when you do it on your own, she has a hard time following.
all right, so we'll go ahead then, other than Rick's comment with the vote. Trustee DeRocher,
Aye.
trustee Lazan,
Aye.
trustee Richardson,
Aye.
trustee Rizika,
Aye.
trustee Stowe,
Aye.
trustee Warren,
Well, okay.
and trustee Gal votes aye as well. I would just like to step out and say this is a very difficult decision, and I think we just had some great dialogue and discussion. Thank you, everyone, for spending time to really think about this and give Sandy what I think is some great direction. So I'll be looking forward to your report in June. And now, guess what? It's Sandy again for her director's report on page 56, folks.
Okay, what did you ask me during the committee of whole meeting that I was going to address here? Anything?
Probably, I don't remember.
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
I know you were going to address the opening date, and you've done so already. You did discuss the concerts on the Commons.
Right.
I think we've done a lot with COVID-19. I don't recall anybody having anything for your report.
No, census work is ongoing. You can see I did include, I asked the department heads not to list every single individual continuing education thing people did.
Oh
I
my
didn't want to
God.
bog you down with that, but overall, staff reported 271 hours of learning opportunities over
Wow.
278 sessions for the month of April. So
No, that's a lot.
that gives you some idea of what's going on. Typically, I think in a year we might hit maybe 2,000 hours max. So with this, we're on track to almost double our normal
A record.
amount of time. Yes. Anyway, and you will notice the
Smarter than the
statistics.
average bears now.
What?
They're all smarter than the average bears now.
Yes, you're right. And the statistics summary, you'll see that our circulation has dropped off precipitously.
I'm glad, because I would be worried if there were numbers there.
Yes.
Yuri,
So
nobody's using that self-checkout.
There are
I
some
know, you
numbers
guys, I
there.
was going to say, there's no champagne coming your way soon.
There are some numbers there, and that's attributed to some of our staff. For instance, our youth services team, they're doing some online programming. So Julie occasionally has to come into the library and grab some books to use, and they are checking those out. Some people have borrowed some devices and equipment to help them get through some of the programming they're doing. But our downloadables,
Look
the
at
ebooks, you can see have increased 70% over last year. So people are
That's
using
amazing.
it. This is good.
Yeah.
This is
Well,
good.
and that's because Hoopla actually has things to check out now.
Right.
Even
Hoopla
Overdrive does.
Right. I was telling the youth services staff this morning, I'm a fan of the Hunger Games series, and that author released a new book yesterday.
Yesterday, yep.
And I am #1 on the list for the library's copy, but I couldn't wait, so I purchased it for my Kindle.
Oh,
And last night, what did I do? I checked Hoopla. Guess what? It's available on Hoopla as an audiobook, which is really the only kind of reading I am doing these days. So I just figure I put some money in the pocket of the publisher and maybe a few pennies in the pocket of the author. But I've learned my lesson. I need to check the library first.
yeah, for sure.
Yes. But anyway, so
You're a good person, Sandy.
I appreciate that.
We
And-
need to all practice generosity this time.
Right. And I will say our programming numbers are down, but I think these numbers are pretty significant considering the pivoting that we've had to do, and the pivoting that our patrons have had to do to learn how to join in on some of these programs. And I've been able to sit in on a couple. Again, I'm a youth services librarian at heart, so I did sit in on 1 or 2 of the story time sessions, and it just melted my heart to see these kids interacting with the librarians. Even if it was on a screen, there was still some interaction going on, and that was really great to see. So
I think Miss Julie should get a tiara for her service.
okay, Miss Julie. I'll pick up a tiara and send it to her. She's become a face of the library a little bit here. And then, you know, in adult services too, they've gotten some really phenomenal speakers to do some great programs. Even those presenters have all learned, I'm sure, new skills and how to do their presentations online. I think it's their livelihood, so they're kind of forced into that mode. But it's been, I think, really great to see the work that everybody's doing to pull these programs together.
They've pivoted well.
Yes. I'm going to get that on a t-shirt.
I can
Pivot.
pivot.
All right.
Anything else for us, Director Whitmer?
Not from my report.
All right. Is there anything, the next report is Assistant to the Director, Jackie Davis. Any questions for her? Her report is on page 58 and I believe 59. I don't know, Jackie's still muted. Is there anything she'd want to tell us, Sandy?
I'll unmute her, maybe.
I don't know.
Jackie, do you have
There she
anything
is.
to share?
No, not really.
Not really. They were in the building today working on the boiler flue repair.
Oh, excellent. Yes.
So that's getting done.
And tomorrow.
And tomorrow.
Were there any, as far as, since Jackie reported on maintenance, were there any roof leaks from all the rain that we saw?
Well, I don't know. I haven't been in the building since the heavy rains, but I'm sure Lee would have reported it if there was, because he's in there Monday, Wednesday, Friday. No, not that I know of.
Because it had leaks in last year sometime, I thought.
Oh, just some little things and nothing major.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
There's
Good.
no swimming pool available now.
Well, if it had rained, it would have rained in on all these books and nobody would have been there to say boo. That would have been.
Right. The
I
cleaning
do have
people
a
might have come.
question, Jackie. How much hand sanitizer have you stockpiled?
I had ordered 48 like 12-ounce bottles so that all the staff can actually have their own right now. And then we have the 4 gallons only that Sandy picked up at Two Brothers. So
Well,
we are not overstocked on that. I have about 1,500 masks, so I have 1,000 in my car right now to go in tomorrow.
Wow.
Good
I
job.
have 1,400 gloves. Okay, let's see. Sandy's got some face shields.
Whoa,
Put it on. Sandy, you could put it on.
that's excellent. Look at that.
Woo!
Is she showing it?
Oh, I got to put on my baseball cap.
Oh,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
I don't own a baseball cap, so that's not going to do me any good.
Very stylish.
Isn't it beautiful? Yeah.
You
It
fancy.
looks like-
Jackie,
Is that a Facebook session or a Zoom session on how to make your own protective face gear?
No, she bought those.
I bought those, but we've actually talked about how funny it could be to have some of our staff demonstrate how to make face masks and probably how not to make face masks. It could be informational and a little bit of entertainment.
Yes.
Jackie.
I already have a video, so you can borrow it if you like.
Yes, Sandy.
Jackie, I was going to say to check out Restaurant Depot for more hand sanitizer because they have gallon jugs there.
Do they sell online or they do probably, right?
I don't know if they do online or not. We're there every week.
Where is it?
It's in Lombard, right off of 355 and North Avenue.
Is that the place that used to be called something else?
Was it called Schweppes?
Schweppes.
Oh, there
That's
you go.
further down the road.
Okay, this
Okay.
is different.
Where was that? North Avenue and where?
I-88, sorry, 355. 355. And I mean, if you register there, you don't pay tax because, you know, if you have your ID number and
Mhm.
stuff like that.
I will check them out. Thank you.
Yeah.
Great.
Okay. Anything else for Jackie? I know we've heard from Paul and Jamie. Anything for them? If you took a minute to look at Kathy Gato's report, you can sure see that she is really, really working hard, folks. And I don't think she's one of those people who are not being fairly working for the library at this point, like Barbara was talking about. So there's a lot of stuff going on in her world. Thank you, Kathy. Technical services, any questions for them? I do have one. How do you pick whose house is getting the books?
Oh, we have a funny story about that. If you have 3 minutes, I sent an email on May 5th to Baker and Taylor, our book supplier, and I asked in my email, can we redirect? I didn't tell this whole story in the report, did I? No. Can we redirect our shipments to a residential address? Because Gail Smith had offered, and Heather has a picture on her phone there. Gail Smith had offered to have them delivered to her house, do appropriate quarantine. She has space to store them. So on or about May 12th, I went to the post office to pick up our mail. And in the mail, there was one little tiny box, which usually has one book in it. And I thought, well, that's odd. From Baker and Taylor. Okay, that's weird. 2 days later, I go, another box. The next day, last Thursday, Jackie and I are in the library. Ding dong, the doorbell rings. It is the UPS driver with 20 boxes full of books for us. So we called Gail, and this goes to technical services. The technical services staff have been in the building, one person at a time, getting these books ready for circulation, and also our magazines. So this picture was yesterday at the library. Wow. I had to call Gail over. She was working at the library. I had to call her because the boxes would not fit in my SUV. So that was at the post office. I went to get my little bin of mail, and the girl said, well, we got all of this for you. And I was like, all of what? She's like, all of these packages. So Baker and Taylor, I think, may have a bot monitoring their email. And they just saw the word shipment, didn't read it in context, and just flipped the switch and turned our shipments back on. So,
oh my goodness.
So there are books in the library, and I would say technical services does not have to worry about a furlough at this time. If there's any good news in this meeting tonight, that's definitely something. And that may be someplace we pull other people into helping out right now. So anyway, that was entertaining.
Another piece of good news is that the latest release of Hunger Games is probably in that shipment someplace.
It wasn't.
It wasn't.
It was not there. It's not on the shelf to be processed unless they hid it somewhere from me so I couldn't get it. But
Somebody else might have read it first.
UPS, there is another box that has not been unopened, so it could be sitting in that box waiting for them. But,
I bet it is. Then you got 3 copies available to you.
Yeah.
You could sell it on eBay.
3 times the fun.
Right. Anyway.
Related question. Have you anticipated that due to the amount of cleaning people have been doing in the last 2 months, you may get books back that were quite a long time ago declared missing in action?
That's a possibility. I haven't really thought about that. I think people would be happy if we took even just donations of the things that they want to get rid of from their house. But I don't want to mix up those. I don't want people to mix up the bins of donations and library materials right now. But at some point, we may open up for donations and just put them into those bins and send them off to the
people who give us the money.
Just as a service for people.
Okay, as far as the president's report, our next meeting will then be at 7 p.m. on June 17th. And again, you may be Zooming or you may be appearing in person with a mask. Watch for details. The reminder of statements of economic interest is no longer pertinent since, congratulations, everyone has completed that task I'm sure Sandy would like to say thank you very, very much. And the future agenda items are listed. We will be approving a budget and appropriation amendment if needed. We will be adopting the budget next month. And as you will see, we have a couple policies and the evaluation that for right now are postponed to later meetings. So Treasurer Stull, anything to report to the group, please?
Well, as of right now, everything looks good, but we'll see how that goes next month.
Thank you.
Maybe a different picture.
Trustee Lazan, anything for the secretary's area?
That all looks good.
Excellent. I don't believe we have any committee reports. Any trustee comments remaining that should be voiced at this time?
I have a question. I'm just wondering if we're able to travel a little bit this summer. I don't know if I'll be here for the June meeting. If you guys meet in person, will it be possible for me to meet in Zoom with you? Or if we were meeting in person, would I not be able to participate?
That is something that I have to look into. I think it's going to depend on what the governor says at that time. If he rescinds our ability to meet virtually, it might not be possible. It might go back to the regular Open Meetings Act
Okay.
regulations. But if we're still able to meet virtually, I know some libraries have been meeting like in a hybrid,
Yes.
where some people are physically present and others are participating virtually. And if that is still the case, then Barbara, you'd be welcome to join us from wherever you are.
I was just going to ask, can you look into that as an option in case there's anybody else who is not comfortable with coming into the library that we do
Yeah, I
the
was
first
going
meeting? Yeah.
gonna say, if we are meeting in person and we have to be masked, I cannot do that. I'm claustrophobic. I can barely have it on for 5 minutes before I hyperventilate.
So,
I think there are some other people who understand that feeling.
yes.
Exactly. So,
I'm trying. I'm really trying because I want to go out in the world.
right. No, understandable. Yeah, I think we're going to have to transition back to those in-person meetings with some sort of a hybrid where some of us those of us who want to be physically present can be physically present, and those who present, and then those who prefer to join us through this type of platform can still do that.
Yeah, if you could just find out some more information. I didn't
Okay.
open up a whole can of worms here.
Nope.
Oh, I don't. I think it's important. Any other trustee comments?
I have one other comment. I did
Please.
complete my Open Meetings Act, so I can officially be the Open Meetings Act officer now.
Oh, yay. Yay, Heather.
Good job, Heather. Glad you got that done.
Yep.
Anything else? Any items for information and/or discussion that do not require board action? Oh, good. So then if I could ask for an important motion at this point?
I move that
I move that we adjourn the meeting online, the Zoom meeting at 8:45 p.m.
I
Can I
said,
get a second? Okay, motion was made by Trustee Rizika and seconded by Trustee DeRocher. All in favor?
I
Aye.
Any opposed? This meeting is now adjourned. Thanks again, everybody on the call, and special thanks to Sandy and her team for keeping the Warrenville Library on the map during these unusual circumstances.